First of all, let me begin by thanking the Chicago Manufacturing Renaissance Council, Oakton Community College, Delta Institute, the Workforce Board, and also the Illinois WorkNet Center for hosting this event here today. I think it's wonderful that we're bringing all of these different stakeholders together. I also want to give a shout out. I know we have several members from the City of Chicago here and from the various departments, and I want to thank them for their participation here this morning with all of us. Also, I don't know, I don't see her anymore. She's probably off to another meeting, but Congresswoman Schakowsky, as many of you know, she's been a fighter on these issues for a very long time, and both in the Illinois General Assembly as well as in the Congress. And I think she really gave a really nice overview in terms of what is going on in the federal level, and we should really be proud of the leadership that she's offering. As Dan Sweeney indicated, you know, and the other speakers, and as many of you know this already, I mean, it does require leadership, and it requires leadership at all levels, whether you are in education, whether you are in the private sector or government. For this transformation, going from fossil fuels powered economy to a clean energy powered economy, we need to have it's the type of effort that took for us to get someone on the moon. And so it requires all of us to come together, and requires all of us to be leaders in our own respective areas. I want to talk a little bit about some of the issues, some of the programs that we've had at the local level, and I want to talk about two particular areas that are of interest to me. And we've already, touched on some of them, but I think, again, for us to be effective in preparing Americans for the next generation of clean energy jobs, we have to be talking about the education. And secondly, how it is that Illinois can prepare for and benefit from our transition to a clean energy economy. I start with education because I think that that's really the only way that we can remain competitive in the global economy. And that is to produce the best trained thinkers, but also the doers. There's a lot of talk, and we're very fortunate. We have still the best university system, the best college system in the world, and everyone wants to come here to school from all over the world. But I think, and many of you have already seen this and heard this, that there really is a gap, right, between now what is the theoretical, if you will, and the application. And so we have to really be starting to focus our efforts on how it is that what we're teaching, how can it really be applied to these new industries, this new economy that's emerging. I wanted to share with you just a story. I just returned from Korea. It was a 2-week trip, actually, where I had through the East-West Center that's located in Hawaii, brings Asian and American elected officials and policymakers together. And I had the opportunity to travel to both Vietnam and Korea. But it was, it was really not only an amazing opportunity to learn about what was going on in those countries politically, but what I found to be most enlightening is when I was able to meet with the local government officials and business leaders in terms of what their efforts that they're undertaking right now and how to advance a clean economy. In particular, the issue really hit home for me when I visited a Hyundai manufacturing facility in Korea. And when I was in, this was one of the older facilities, but despite the fact that it was one of the first facilities for the company, it was very automated. You saw some workers there, but it was all high tech, and you had a lot of robots manufacturing the cars, putting the cars together, requiring a very high level of precision. Now, that in of itself is something that struck me, but what really got me thinking was the follow-up discussion about how now they are directing this automation toward advancing a clean technology economy. I don't know how many of you were aware of this, but right now Korea really is leading the charge globally in terms of making a commitment to a clean energy economy. In fact, their president has declared a Green New Deal, where $38 billion is being invested into infrastructure projects that will fund the revitalization of 4 major rivers, eco-friendly transportation, small dams, and forest maintenance. Now, their government is estimating that the package will create roughly 956,000 new jobs over the next 4 years alone, and 140,000 jobs this year alone. They've also declared, when I was visiting with them, they declared through this plan that they were going to develop a green growth agenda. And in Korea, it's not just on the national level. What ends up happening is whenever the national government declares a policy, it goes all the way down to the very local levels of government. And so if you think about that, they are transforming their entire economy, not just the federal policy, but every aspect, all of their important institutions that Dan was talking about, they get it and they are mobilizing. You know, I was also struck in terms of what Korea has historically done. Korea is relatively a new country, South Korea, and they had a presentation at one point about how early on the Korean government, the South Korean government, prioritized vocational training. But it wasn't the type of vocational training where, where it was a simple production. It was training students for high technology production. And I was struck by the fact that they actually had an Olympic Games for their vocational schools. And so they actually had a vocational Olympics. And I was struck that this was such a big deal in their country that the winners, the students, were actually treated like national heroes. So they would have ticker tape parades. The students would meet with the country's leaders. They would take pictures. They would be honored. And what that has done now is created a culture of excellence in the area of manufacturing. They honor manufacturing as a way toward economic prosperity. And you're seeing that now in the next transition of how they are mobilizing. And they see it. They have a very clear vision of where they want to go, and they see how they can maximize on the education and transform it in an area that they have already developed strength and awareness and something that is important to their culture. We need to do the same. And here in the United States, we have the capacity to do it. What we need to do is align ourselves better. I know that, sometimes we're very critical of ourselves at times, right? And I think it's easy to frankly get caught up because of cynicism. Sometimes, we see things going wrong. But let's not forget about the overwhelming potential that we have. We have the capacity to do it. We have the schools. We have the instructors. As I was sitting here right now, I was struck and I was saying to myself, I feel great about the fact that we have organizations like the Delta Institute, the Renaissance Center here. Dan Sweeney saying to all of us, let's pull together. Let's redirect our manufacturing sector in a way that we know we can. And we've done it. We have a history here in the United States of rising to that challenge, meeting that challenge by realigning ourselves and recognizing, and once we establish what our priorities are, we become very effective. And I think we just kind of have to cut through that haze a little bit and reassert our position. But look, we have to take some action steps. We have to support the kind of efforts to revitalize education and repurpose it in a way where there is some practical effect.